lead you into a good direction for the game. So I think just those two things are what immediately sticks out to me first. So if we can kind of control the tempo, pace of the game, and not let them get out and run, we should be in a good spot.
Caleb Love, what just makes him so difficult to contain?
I think two things: prolific scorer and just competitor. Played at a really good high school. Played at a really high level at North Carolina before he came to Arizona, and I think that's just kind of the confidence he's had. He's played with his whole entire career in high school and college, kind of having the green light and being able to get to whatever shot he kind of wants to get to and playing with that, upbeat, free of mind type of game. So I think that's kind of what makes him go. He's old now too. I think he's a fifth-year guy. I think he's my grade, but experience can take you a long ways, and all those things together, can make you into a really good player.
I think maybe one of the underrated advantages you guys have in this matchup is just the number of stoppers on the perimeter you guys have, whether it's you, two Johns, or Cam, just to kind of throw bodies at him, give him different looks, and maybe wear him down over a 40-minute period.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's one of our biggest abilities defensively is our guard and our perimeter defense this year. You can kind of put a little more length on them with either John or me. And if you want to throw a quicker guy, a guy who can kind of get up in your grill and mix it up a little bit, you've got a guy like Kamari who can come in and do that. And then I think another guy who doesn't get enough praise is Jack Janicki. He's got great length for his size, really active with his hands and moves his feet at a high level. So just think our ability to have different matchups, be able to throw those at him. You're usually never going to really stop a guy like that, but you can slow him down. Mixing it up, hopefully that'll kind of throw a wrench in there.
When you play these types of games, obviously you find out a lot about yourself. You look back at last year when you guys came up short against Tennessee and then went to Fort Myers and beat Virginia, and all of a sudden things kind of clicked for you. What was it just doing when you whenever it comes, just able to knock off one of these bigger name teams and kind of pass off those tests?
I think just kind of falling back onto your habits and what you work on. You can't really get caught up in the moment of the ranking, how big the game is, things like that. You got to approach it as every game is the same. Not every game is the same, but one at a time type of mentality. Approach Arizona how we approach Montana State, and approach Arizona how we approach App State and things like that. Not getting too head over heels of who it is or what we got to do. Just know if we come out and play our basketball, we'll be all right.
And the starts have obviously been an issue in all three games. Do you look at it saying, okay, we know we can get ourselves out of trouble, or do we say, okay, if that happens against a team like Arizona, we might not dig ourselves out of that?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think it's nice to know that it eventually will level out. You'll start hitting shots. I've said this, the first two games, at least against App State, Montana State, they hit a lot of shots early. And then, you kind of get settled into the game and stuff kind of starts to level out. The water starts to level, so to say. But I think we also have to come out with a much more aggressive mentality. I think guys are ready to go, but just, get into your shot, get into the paint. Points off penetration is something we preach, and I think we're a little tentative maybe at times to start the game, so just keeping that aggressive mindset should help us kind of propel forward in the beginning.
One of the roles you kind of take on is that combo guard. Essentially, you and John are kind of working as those 2 point guards initiating the offense. Coach Gard mentioned yesterday, you've grown a lot in your vision game, working out of ball screens and things like that. How have you maybe seen your game grow in that aspect to kind of grow into being a point guard for this year?
I'm old, and I've seen a lot of college basketball, and I've had to play a lot of different styles of college basketball. I know how to win different types of games, whether it's going to be a rock fight or if it's going to be a track meet. I think I got a good mix and a good feel of how the game's going to go from the jump and kind of prepared going into it. But it's just something that you improve on every year, something you want to get better on and something you work on. I know you probably growing up in high school, I was not coming off any ball screens at Nina. I was not really doing any of that. So it's something that you just kind of grow. You learn the game more at a way higher of a level. You meet a lot of people that know the game at a super high level. You kind of just use that to your advantage. You implement those things in the off season, work on that, and eventually it becomes something that's natural to you. So.
When you talk about, you as a scorer, first two games shot about 9 threes, obviously had a lot of success with the 26-point game. That last game, it seemed like, especially when you got in a hurry in the second half, it was you going downhill, attacking, getting the free throw line, things like that. What have you seen that part of your game grow? I I guess the ability to kind of be a three-level scorer and also be as aggressive as you can six.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a scorer. Like, I think, it just depends kind of the role that you want to not be in, but, the team, that what they expect of you and how you can perform to your highest ability at that role. But, I mean, I think I've always been a scorer. I scored at a high level in high school, kind of took a different role freshman year at Wofford, but then was implemented back to being kind of the primary ball handler scorer in that role. So it's something that I feel is a little bit natural. I don't want to say I like when the ball's in my hands, but I feel comfortable. Like I said, being a fifth-year guy too, being able to take care of the ball, set the table for our team, find open guys, hit the open three, and things like that. So I think it's something that's always kind of been part of me, but maybe it's just not been amplified to this much.
This season, all 5 starters have averaged at least 10 points in the first 3 games. How do you guys been able to move the ball around, find those open shots to the highest degree that you kind of have so far?
Like I mentioned earlier, I think just being able to get in the paint, make stuff happen off paint touches, whether that's thrown into Steve, but I think like guys like John Blackwell and Kamar McGee have been really good at getting in the lane, playing off 2 feet, making smart decisions, not forcing the issue. Then you have a guy like John Thompson, who's a natural scorer and has a natural ability to get to the free throw line at a really high rate. So I think you just kind of add everything like that together. Good things are going to happen, and you got a lot of guys that want to play for each other and are more, happy, excited to see someone hit the kick-out 3 than hit the whatever walk-up hezzy transition 3. That means a lot and can go a long ways.
Max, I'm curious what impact that Coach Penny has had on the offense specifically.
He's had a lot of impact just on me as an offensive player, I would say. He's a guy who has seen a lot of basketball. He's played at a really high level in his career, and he knows a lot of people that have played even higher basketball. So I think that's someone I just like to sit around and talk to. But going to your question, I mean, he's elevated our offensive game, our offensive mindset drastically. I think we're up on an average of 10 points per game this year, scoring in the 80s and stuff. But I think it's just like a confidence and mentality thing he preaches at the end of it. He pumps the confidence in the guys who have the ability to shoot it. No shot is ever a bad shot. Like, if that's in your wheelhouse, you take it, you shoot that shot. But I think everybody kind of has a defined role too, and everybody's accepted their role of kind of how this has to be in order to be successful. And that's a huge credit to Coach Gardy and Coach Penny, allowing us to be free and kind of play that way.
Now that you've had a few games to kind of see the team and be out there on the court playing different opponents, how would you kind of assess the differences of this team compared to last year in the way you guys are made up and the way you guys play?
I think it's more, I don't want to say last year wasn't team basketball, but it's a lot more team focused, I think, and in terms of seeing guys, like I said, the swing to the one more pass and getting an open corner 3 or something like that, I think is really big and kind of something we take a lot more pride in and celebrating everybody's play. You know what I mean? It's never one person who makes the bucket or score happen. It's because all 5 guys on the floor happen to do something right. So I think just our ability to have that mentality, the team first mentality, putting your pride aside and putting the team first, is something that this team has really kind of taken to the next level so far to start the year. And I think, this early on, that's only going to grow even more. So I think the ceiling is pretty limitless for the squad right now, and everybody's just got to keep their head down, keep working.
Cam, do you guys kind of view him as sort of a 6th starter, and how does the game just maybe change, when he enters the game like that?
I mean, yeah, I don't really think it matters really who starts, who doesn't start. We know Kamari's going to come in the game with a crazy amount of energy and kind of change the tempo, be able to control the pace of the game. And that's something that you kind of need coming off the bench. Coach Gard kind of always talks about elevating, your team, the game when you get in, and I think he does everything and then some in terms of that. So I know he's grown a lot too, just his ability to learn on the fly, kind of play 2 years behind a guy like Chuck and just learn and kind of compete against a guy like that every day. I think the light is finally shedding through and kind of this is what we've expected after seeing how hard he's worked and how patient he's been, and just the life he brings to the game is huge for this team.
Just on top of that, you obviously transferred in with him and kind of went through that adjustment together. Everyone's got to do it at their own pace, and you obviously had another year of college basketball that he didn't have. But what did you maybe see from him behind the scenes that allowed him to be a guy even last year probably didn't know whether he was going to play or not in certain games, to be somebody who's pushing 30 minutes now and being one of the most important pieces for you guys?
Workhorse, regardless of what his role was, regardless of the amount of minutes he played per game, his mentality coming into the day was the exact same. Whether that's getting shots up before practice, lifting the world in the weight room, watches a lot of film, and he's really savant to the game. Like, truly takes this thing seriously at all aspects, at all levels. Obviously takes care of his body pretty well. I think he's built like a fire hydrant, as Coach Card would say. So I think it's just his work ethic and kind of his mentality he's always had. He's always been a believer in himself. He's never thought twice about the person, the player he is. He's always doubled down on himself, no matter how things got. Whether that was him getting hurt last year or him maybe not seeing the floor. He always bets on himself, and that's a guy you can play with, and that's a guy you can play for. Knowing you got that at point guard and kind of leading the squad makes everybody kind of play with